Hi, I'm Josanne Wright Callender, the author of the Happy Little Garbage Truck Picture Book and Educational System. It's a teacher's guide, a student activity book, and scripted lessons on teaching students literacy as well as social skills, which I hope, as I found it, to be a fun way to do both. And my students that I've used my program with really loved it. And they had a sense of accomplishment as we went through each day's lesson. So this leads me up to why I'm doing these vlogs. It was during COVID and the quarantine that I felt that I could give teachers and parents tips to use to teach their students, to keep the learning process going, even though everything was shut down. So this kind of evolved into a blog that shares tips and tools that I hope will build better self concept and self confidence in students, which was the key to why I wrote my little picture book. It was a fun picture book, but I also wanted to get that lesson through, do your best job. And, when you do things that you enjoy doing, you actually feel better about yourself. And no matter what goes on around you, it's still something that you can do. And that kind of led into my recent review of Z. Hereford's article, How to Think for Yourself. Because in going back to school, I knew that students would be influenced by those around them. And these were little tips and tools to keep them on track to doing their best job. And thinking for oneself, which involves critical thinking skills, is paramount. It's foundational to having a good self concept. Well, this has been like an interesting overview because as I reviewed Miss Hereford, Z. Hereford wrote this wonderful article, How to Think for Yourself. And she also wrote a wonderful article about living a life of courage. And both go so hand in hand. And today I thought I'd review, since it's been a week, and I have to apologize. I'm working on my first young adult novel, and it has been a wonderful journey, and I've just gotten it to the proofreader. And so as things move along, I'll share more with you about that process. And maybe it will be on another YouTube link, which I'll talk about and give to you. Well, in Miss Hereford's article, Live a Life of Courage, she said there were 5 components that one needed in order to have courage and to develop courage in one's life. Those were dealing with fear, a willingness to do whatever that is that takes courage to do, noting, excuse me, how does courage look? And that was, I thought, a pretty interesting article. But we're going to get to that in a bit. And starting the process, pardon me, and developing faith. And so it's been a real blessing for me to learn how to develop courage. And I hope this has been helpful to you too, because we're going to go into where I left off last time. And I was sharing with you about this workshop that I did and how totally anxious I had become and wanting to do this workshop in the best way. It didn't have a lot of information on the group that I was going to be working with and their skill levels. But, I did like a foundational ground level up to how I would start working on modifying a curriculum. Well, that anxiety really hit me hard. I couldn't sleep the night before. And I'm sure a lot of you have been through that kind of a situation. But it made me wonder about, the anxiety that our students and children might be feeling when they're facing something new and different. And they don't have the courage to face them the way we do. And even with our courage, we could still get anxious. So, when I looked at this, I investigated a little bit and found out that mostly or at times anxiety can manifest itself when one tends to be judgmental and when one is perfectionistic. And I have to say that I've been both at different times in my life and sometimes at the same time I had both of those thoughts in my mind because, I wanted to do my best, and I was critical of when I didn't hit that mark. So, I thought about, you know, well, as a writer too, this happens quite a bit. You don't know exactly when you're finished with something, and there's always a couple of words that you can change and use better words to express the thought or a feeling. But, you know, we want our children to do their best job. And I was thinking that sometimes we can teach them to be overly critical. And so the way to pull back from this is to accept the fact that it's going to be a process. You're going to have to take baby steps to get to that particular point that you're thinking that you should be at. And teach yourself and show your students how to give yourself this grace period as you're working towards completing or getting to hitting that mark. So it reminded me of a student that I was teaching recently. He's learning how to be a better writer. And so he had a 10-minute period of time to outline his 3 to 5 paragraph paper. And when the time was up, he only had 3 sentences. So instead of saying, "Oh my goodness, you only have 3 sentences," I said, "Well, that's a really good start." And I took a screenshot of it. I said, "You know what? Every week you're going to get a little bit farther, and then we're going to look back at where you started on this date to see how much progress you've made." So, I didn't you know, get over analytical on what he did or didn't do. I just said, "Look, this is the beginning, and we're going to keep on working on it, and you're going to feel better about what you've done when we get to our next point. And each time we do this, you're going to get better and better." He had the willingness to improve. And so that leads us to our next topic next time, the willingness to do so. So please share, please subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.